how much I can talk about QR codes. But anyway, thank you for joining. Before I go into it, a bit of a background on me. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Koala, which is centered all around QR codes. And I graduated from Cardiff University last year with a degree in business. Nothing to do with cyber. But I quickly joined Cyber Innovation Hub, which I wanted to learn new skills in a growing industry. And part of Cyber Innovation Hub is they look to create an ecosystem of cyber in Wales. They have two programs. One is all about upskilling people in cyber, and the other is a venture building program where they spin out cyber startups all in Wales. So I joined there. They built a team around the problem, and then my role is more the commercial side is to commercialize the business. And yeah, it's all centered around QR codes. So a quick agenda. We're going to take a look back at the history of the QR code and what led to its rapid growth here in the UK, but also globally, why we suddenly trusted this technology that was put in front of us, and now the increase in malicious usage of QR codes and whether that is going to be the end of the QR code or it's going to serve us for another 20 years. To start things off, I thought I'd do it a bit differently, but weirdly enough, these four animals have all led to where the QR code is today and have all played a big part in fueling its growth. If you can connect the dots now, fair play, but it will all be revealed throughout. So to start off to why we have a QR code in the first place, we have to go back to the root and to why it was invented. And in the early 1990s, the manufacturing and retail industry were getting fed up with the limitations of the barcode due to it being only scannable one-dimensionally, not holding much data, and actually took up too much space on a product. Now, this then led Denso Wave employee Masahiro Hara to take the challenge of inventing something that was going to replace the barcode. And while playing a game of Go, he realized that if you put black and white dots in a certain pattern, it could then be scannable horizontally and vertically. And this created, as we know, the two-dimensional barcode, the QR code. But when it was first invented, it was still pretty rubbish. And it was very hard to scan via a machine reader. This is then when he came up with the eyes, the three dots, which is said to be by looking at skyscrapers in Tokyo. And this then gave the QR code its name, the Quick Response, and this was quickly adopted by its parent company, Toyota, into its Kanban processes. Now, during this time, this was beginning to roll out across Asia, but we still didn't really see it here in the UK. And that wasn't until mad cow disease, where I can bring in the cow. And this was before my time, but in the late 1990s and early 2000s, there's infected beef that was causing huge uproar and killed 179 Brits here in the UK. This led to huge regulations and requirements over transparency of supply chains, and manufacturers and people working in supply chain were trying to find something that could hold more data, was easily scannable, and could track from the source and to where the product ended up, which the QR code emerged as the missing piece of the puzzle. Now, within this time after 2010, QR codes were beginning to become commonplace across Asia. We had mega apps such as WeChat and Alipay that revolutionized QR code payments across the emerging economies. And this was quickly followed within Brazil and India with Paytm. One of the main benefits here is that you could just print off a QR code and stick it on your stool, whereas us here in the UK would use the POS systems. Now, to this day, QR codes are still the preferred payment method across Asia. The next big break didn't come until 2017, when Apple and Android finally introduced the scannable technology into its inherent QR code so often, camera technology. And then, as we're all aware, I'm saying it's the bat, but COVID-19 was the biggest catalyst for QR codes here in the UK and globally, and we saw it take off rapidly. In fact, people say it took 26 years really for the QR code to take off. And within a matter of months, we saw a 750% increase in QR code scans here in the UK. And in industries such as hospitality, we saw 25 times more QR codes used within the first 3 months than we had in the 20 years prior to that. But you look back now and you think, well, why did I suddenly start scanning these black and white dots? And why did I trust it? Well, the real reason, we didn't really have a choice. All of a sudden, QR codes were everywhere, and we had no choice other than to interact with them, as we are now living in this contactless-free society. We're having to use them to scan in, to view menus, scan into events, and even the COVID-19 certificates had a QR code, where 2.3 billion were created. And what's really interesting, it wasn't just the younger demographics that had to interact with this technology. It was from 16 children all the way to your grandma and grandparents that are having to use QR codes. And then other industries started to pick up on how good this technology can be in connecting with consumers. And marketing saw a 323% growth from 2021 to 2023, as they could now see it as a great tool to promote with people and interact with their consumers. And this has then led to one of the most successful ad campaigns of all time by Coinbase, which is an ad on the Super Bowl, where it's just a QR code bouncing on the screen, just like you would a DVD symbol. And it led people intrigued to scan, as they wanted to know what was lurking behind the QR code. Now, 20 million people scanned that QR code in a matter of minutes, which actually ended up crashing the site. So where are we today? Well, 91% of the UK have scanned a QR code before, and 37% of people, on average, scan at least once a week. Now, that represents a significant number of people. And just think how often we see QR codes in our everyday lives. Oh, well, that was a chart basically saying that this is actually very low compared to the worldwide average. In nations outside the UK, people are scanning QR codes on average every single day. And across Asia, you're interacting with QR codes at least 10 to 15 times. But as to why I'm speaking here, is because QR codes are becoming increasingly more dangerous. We've seen over 3 million malicious instances revolving QR codes in the UK in just the last year. And since July, we've seen a 2,000% surge in QR code phishing campaigns, showcasing this as a new method for fraudsters to gain access to our personal details. And no wonder, when 80% of the UK population think that QR codes are safe, we never really stop to think what could be lurking behind the QR code we're about to scan. But what's interesting, despite the QR codes are still taking up usage across the West, it's been a problem since the get-go, and 70% of all mobile payment fraud in China is QR code related. And in the city alone, Bengaluru in India, there are 20,000 QR code scams within just the last few months. The pictures aren't working, but one of the main reasons for this is the social engineering tactics and how easy it is to deceive people into scanning a malicious QR code. I mean, just think how easy it is to stick a fake QR code over the top of the real one and have no idea that it's going to take you to a harmful destination. But also we're now seeing more signs and letters impersonating brands to look the exact same and you have no idea. There's recently a HMRC letter that was being sent around via the post, had a QR code on, looked legit, people scanned the QR code, typed in personal details, and before you know it, you're giving away your data and often giving away your financial details as well. And we've also seen a huge increase, as mentioned, in QR code phishing campaigns known as quishing, which is where a QR code is sent via email and often in image format. This is because often with the current URL checkers, it gets picked up in the security processes, but as it's sent via an image, it often goes through. And we've also seen a huge increase in hacking the QR code destination or redirection. This is even now happening on products where they're hacking the redirection of where the destination is taking you. So again, when you're scanning, you actually never know where that QR code is going to take you. Then that was the fish up there, which was the other animal. But this is just the gateway for all the common cyber attacks that we all know. There is the problem at the source. So anyone can generate a QR code currently. From the generation side, there's very limited checks for anti-phishing technology, anti-malware, and it's so easy to generate. And what these images were pointing out was the fact that you can generate a malicious one and a safe one, and they look identical. There's no way of checking from the eye if the QR code is safe. And they are now taking the headlines. There's been recent... Why is that not working? Yeah. Give me 1 second. Oh, it's because of Matthew's hotspot.
So much for weird content.
Right, we'll do it about. But anyway, these are the recent headlines picking up on the stories that QR code scams are now a problem. We've seen a huge increase globally, and BBC especially now are picking up on it, ITV. But what's really interesting, which was up there, is that brands are still using QR codes, yet they are trying to educate people that QR codes are dangerous. We recently set up our banking Tide account, and it was scanned by a QR code, and just above it was beware of QR code scams, because there's very little solutions out there currently. And as mentioned, the ramifications can be great. For individuals, this can be great financial loss. But we've also seen a huge increase in the theft of personal information and data, but also malware injection. You never know once you click that link where you're going to, and we've seen a huge increase in malware injection, all stemmed from the QR codes. And the ramifications are also great for businesses. We've seen businesses being hit by QR code scams and have huge financial losses. But also just think of a business utilizing QR codes in their everyday operations. This can have great brand reputational damage, leading to a loss of customers, legal repercussions, but also huge operational disruptions. And to prove that this isn't all just waffle, these are actual case studies of where it has happened. So there's a recent case study where a manufacturing company was sent a QR code via email. An employee scanned the QR code, typed in the company details on their work phone, and had the company held at a £20,000 ransom. Back in November, there was the case where the lady scanned a QR code to pay for her parking. She ended up getting scammed £13,000 because it was, again, the gateway of typing in your banking details. It was actually it went on for, I think it was 6 months, the attack, but all from the data they got that she typed in from the website, they were able to block her from her bank account, and £13,000 was taken from her account. And we've also seen a huge increase across the e-commerce sector of QR codes now being more popular through payments. But again, you don't know where that QR code's taken you. And there's been thousands of victims that have fallen. There's been thousands of people that have fallen victim to QR code payment issues via e-commerce. And as mentioned, HMRC and test centres, during COVID, people were very quick to realise that people were just scanning QR codes. So they created fake letters and signs, getting people to type in their personal health information. And this led to scams again down the line. But most recently in the news, even children's snacks. So the Paw Patrol snacks, the QR code redirection got hacked, and it was on over 1 million products. Porn was uploaded onto children's snacks. So as you can imagine, for parents and children, it's not probably great. But usage isn't going to slow down. Despite all this, QR codes are about to take off yet again. As we get better connectivity globally, we're about to see QR codes used even more. And it's expected to grow by over 70% from 2023 to 2027. And again, in emerging economies, they're utilizing this new technology. And we're going to see a 400% growth across Latin America. By the end of this year, 80% of all ordering activity will use QR codes, and the payment industry is yet again about to boom. We're about to see more QR code payments here in the UK, which is why by 2025, 2.2 billion people will use QR codes as a payment method, and the global spend through QR codes will reach 3 trillion. But that's not all. We're about to see them even more on products. So GS1, which is the global body for if you want to sell any products here in the UK or globally, you have to sign up and get a GTIN code or UPC code. They're now scrapping that, and they're changing all their codes to QR codes. So if you ever want to sell a product from 2027, it's going to be in QR code form. And again, that says the dangers with this Paw Patrol. You never know where that QR code will lead you. But, of course, it does have great uses as well. We're soon to see them even more in the services sector, used for sort of booking taxis, and even more so across hospitality. And they're also going to be used to unlock augmented reality in the near future. So, the reason this slide looks so rubbish is to get the message across there really isn't any current industry best practices. For consumers, the current advice out there is to scratch the QR code before you scan and make sure it doesn't look like a phishing attack, which for the average person, this is pretty hard to tell. And for businesses, the current advice out there is to use short URLs. And when speaking to a consultant recently of a huge multinational retailer, the advice was to put them out of reach. There isn't really any solution out there. So what's next? Are they soon to be replaced? Well, the current technology that is trying to replace the QR codes are such as NFC tags, RFID, and snap tags, which look cleaner than the QR code. However, realistically, for this technology to even take off, you'd need another pandemic where everyone is suddenly forced to interact with the technology, which realistically isn't going to happen. And I was speaking with someone within the banking sector recently, and we are trying to connect the dots of where QR codes sit now is a very pivotal moment, basically. Because it could be that if consumers start to lose trust in QR codes, we will suddenly stop seeing them at all. And we were looking at the banking sector and how it took sort of 20 years to take off. It was met with a lot of skepticism, loads of bad press, due to a couple scandals, but the difference was there was constant innovation. Whereas you look at where the QR code was 30 years ago, and it hasn't changed where it is today, the scanning experience is the same, there's been very little innovation to safeguard this technology. which leads me on well to what we are doing at Koala. We're tackling this problem head on. So we've got a free to download consumer app, which is out now, which checks to make sure the QR code you're scanning is safe. We've also got our business services where we want to become the world's first dedicated secure QR code generator, where there is a difference in scanning the QR code, just visual verification, constant monitoring, and it is the world's first robust QR code. So thank you for listening. That one's fine. And yeah, if you've got any questions about QR codes, ask me. So the use case is slightly different there, because it's normally then you've got a digital signature. So the device, so for example, at an event, my phone couldn't pick up that QR code. It would just be the device that's readable. So that is more secure and robust. But if they are using a QR code that is scannable by anyone, then that is where the main vulnerabilities are at the moment. If that answers it.
It seems like, as you pointed out, like the security of the QR code is dependent on the kind of physical security, I guess. So, like putting a sticker over the original one, etc., etc. Like, how would I guess it's kind of a question about QRLA.
Yeah.
What do you do to? Is there anything that you could do to help that from a technical perspective?
Yeah. So, and that is. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So our goal at the moment is to create that ecosystem where we want every scan to be facilitated by us in some format and every QR code generated by us in another format. And one thing with the physical security is the fact that when you scan a QR code at the moment, you don't know where it's going to go. I was trying to get the point across. However, with us, we're trying to add that two-step visual verification in the fact that when you see one of our QR codes, you expect to see visual verification that matches that QR code with that one. And the challenge is at the moment is it's a huge educational piece because we've got to raise awareness on the issue and what we're doing. In essence, because what we want is that if you don't see that visual verification that it's safe, you then think twice about going on to the QR code destination. So it's a big task at hand, but that is what we're currently trying to do because it is a physical issue and the generation side as well. If that answers that. Yeah, so that is like the end big picture goal, is that it becomes sort of a standard for QR codes, because I think it is a big thing in the fact that we should be able to just trust a QR code, really. Like, it shouldn't even be the case that you can do it maliciously and how easy it is to generate. So we would like to be that standard and that sort of stamp, watermark sort of approval that the QR code you're about to scan is secure. We've actually seen that. So Dubai government are trying to bring in a secure QR code so that people can't create malicious ones. And we want to sort of do the same here in the UK with that. Perfect. Right. 2 minutes early as well. Thank you.